Good afternoon, guys. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to prune a climbing rose. It's not a particularly difficult task, but it is a task that you need to do in winter while the plant's dormant. And pruning properly, pruning carefully, will ensure you have beautiful blooms in the sort of spring, summertime. Right, before you get started, there are just a couple tools you're going to need. First is a really nice pair of sharp secateurs. Reason you need them quite sharp is sharper the cut, the cleaner the cut, less chance of any kind of disease or dieback from where you make the cut. You may also find you need a pair of loppers. The climbing rose I'm going to show you in a minute is quite old and some really thick growth on it that I'm going to need the loppers for. Secondly is a container just to keep everything tidy and put away all your cuttings ready for either composting or disposing of. And then finally, something a bit optional is gloves. Obviously, roses have thorns, but sometimes I find it's easier to not use the gloves because you can sort of feel a bit better and you're a bit more in control on things. But you may want to use gloves if maybe you're a little bit clumsy and worried about the thorns. So this here is the climbing rose, and as you can see, it's quite bare at the minute, and I am going to put some pictures up of what it looked like this May, where it's absolutely stunning. Some absolute beautiful pink roses on it, and yeah, it's an absolute delight having this sort of outside my front door, but it needs some work, it needs some controlling, so that's what we're going to get into today. Step one is to prune away all these sort of dead, dry, diseased growth. This stuff here is just snapping off. It's dry as a chip. There's no sort of growth in it. It's definitely not going to hold a flower, so you need to get rid of this. And what we're aiming to do here is get rid of anything that is potentially, well, not going to support a flower and take up valuable sort of light space from the other sort of nice branches of the plant that are looking to photosynthesize. Now, it's important that you take your time with step one. With this one here, where it's not really been that well looked after, the more I looked, the more I saw, kind of thing. So it's really important to do that, because step one is going to help you massively with step two. Step two is to remove any overlapping branches. Now, I've got a really good example here where I'm hoping I can film. You can see where the branch has been rubbing on the other branch, and that's going to introduce diseases. It's going to stop it flowering, and you can see even this little bit has actually died, probably just because it's been rubbing on it, and that's not what roses like. It's going to foster disease and potentially obscure light as well. So this plant is, the biggest thing this plant needs is to remove the overlapping branches. Here's another good example. I've got two really strong stems here which go up and up and up, but they're overlapping, so I need to remove one of them. And again, this is why step one is so important, to remove all the dead woody bits, because then you can stand back, look at the structure of your rose and start making decisions. Now, the final bit to do once you've done step one and two is any new strong, good growth from last year is to cut it back by 2/3. This stimulates, rather than the plant to keep going in a straight line and flopping over, it will branch out a leaf bud. Now, leaf buds are quite easy to notice because they just look like this. They're almost like little knuckles on stems, and that's a leaf bud. And if, for example, I cut this plant up here, this and this bud is the sort of the direction that the new branches would grow, and that's important to consider when you're doing your pruning. And that there, guys, is the finished piece. So I'm going to take you over to my sort of bush rose now, just summarize the points we went over and sort of show you it on a smaller scale. Here I've got a little compact sort of bush rose, and the first thing I want to do is I want to remove the sort of any diseased or damaged growth. Then I'm going to look to take out any overlapping branches, and unlike the climbing rose, this is much better. But one example I would show you is, got down here some branches. Now as these grow up, they're going to begin to overlap with these ones. So it's whether I think I want to let these grow on a bit, or whether I want to cut them out now. Having growth from the base is good, but you just need to be mindful of the sort of step two, which is the overlapping branches. And then finally, where you've got like a lovely strong leader sort of stem like this, is I want to just cut it down maybe halfway and let these sort of leaf buds sort of bush out the plant, rather than having it go on and on and on sort of up my fence. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and with rose pruning, just don't be too worried about it. Even if you cut the whole thing off to the ground, chances are you'll lose a year of flowering, but the plant will recover, it will grow back. So you can't really do too much damage, but just try and think about the structure of the plant, look at the leaf buds, look at the direction they're growing, and you should be fine. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. In my sort of garden tour videos, I will take a look at the rose bushes again, so do keep an eye out for those as the year goes on, and you can see how it gets on.